Counting my money didn't take very long. The changes brought about by the commercial revolution were slow, yet they had a major effect on the lives of Europeans. Two of the most important changes involved what people did to earn a living and where they lived. As towns attracted workers, the towns grew into cities. Life in the cities was different from life in the sleepy villages or on manors. Scholars estimate that between 1000 and 1150 CE, the population of Western Europe rose from about 30 million to about 42 million people. Towns grew and flourished, but compared to great cities like Constantinople, European towns were unsophisticated and tiny. Europe's largest city, Paris, probably had no more than 60,000 people by the year 1200. A typical town in medieval Europe had only about 1,500 to 2,500 people. Even so, these small communities became a powerful force for change in Europe. By the later Middle Ages, trade was the very lifeblood of the new towns, which sprung up at ports and crossroads, on hilltops and along rivers. As trade grew, towns all over Europe swelled with people. The excitement and bustle of towns drew many people, but there were some drawbacks to living in the medieval town. Streets were narrow, filled with animals and their waste. With no sewers, most people dumped household and human waste into the street in front of their house. Wait, human waste? Is that what I think it is? Anyway, most people never bathed, and their houses lacked fresh air, light, and clean water. Because houses were built of wood with thatched roofs, they were a constant fire hazard. Nonetheless, many people chose to move to towns to pursue the economic and social opportunities they offered. People were no longer content with their old feudal existence on manors or in tiny villages. Even though legally bound to their lord's manor, many serfs ran away. According to custom, a serf could become free by living within a town for a year and a day. A saying of the time went, "Town air makes you free." Many of these runaway serfs, now free people, made better lives for themselves in towns. The merchants and craftspeople of medieval towns did not fit into the traditional medieval social order of noble, clergy, and peasant. At first, towns came under the authority of feudal lords, who used their authority to levy fees, taxes, and rents. As trade expanded, the Burghers, or merchant-class town dwellers, resented this interference in their trade and commerce.
His Honor, Burgermeister, Meisterburger.
The burghers organized themselves and demanded privileges. These included freedom from certain kinds of tolls and the right to govern the town. At times, they fought against their landlords and won these rights by force. During the Crusades, European contact with Muslims and Byzantines greatly expanded. This contact brought a new interest in learning, especially in the classical works of the Greeks and Romans. The Muslim and Byzantine libraries housed copies of their writings. This included science, philosophy, law, mathematics, and other fields. Most European libraries had disappeared during the centuries following the fall of Rome and the invasions of Western Europe. The Crusaders brought back to Europe superior Muslim technology in ships, navigation, and weapons. At the center of the growing of learning stood a new European institution, the university. The word university originally referred to a group of scholars meeting wherever they could. People, not buildings, made up the medieval university. At a time when serious scholars and writers were writing in Latin, a few remarkable poets began using a lively vernacular, or the everyday language of their homeland. Some of these writers wrote masterpieces that are still read today. Dante wrote the Divine Comedy in Italian. Geoffrey Chaucer wrote the Canterbury Tales in English.
Geoffrey Chaucer's the name.
Since most people couldn't read or understand Latin, these works written in the vernacular brought literature to many people. Christian scholars, meanwhile, wondered if they could use Aristotle's logical approach to truth and still keep faith with the Bible. In the mid-1200s, the scholar Thomas Aquinas argued that the most basic religious truths could be proved by logical argument. Aquinas and his fellow scholars, who met at the great universities, were known as schoolmen, or scholastics. Hey, that's where we get the term scholar. The scholastics used their knowledge of Aristotle to debate many issues of their time. Their teachings on law and government influenced the thinking of Western Europeans.